Hey everyone, this is Carbonite bringing you another standard match. Today on the right we do have once again Alestials, but this is going to be a different build from the previous player. It is a different player. We are going to be seeing them going up against something I don't think we've ever featured on this channel, which is going to be MLB. So we do see Alestial going first, riding into that grade 1, binding the top card of the deck, which is going to be a trigger unit. So we are going to be in Black Wings. Now if I am correct, I think Black Wings on the grade 1 means that it can't be attacked by grade 1 or less rear guards. I could be incorrect on that, but that's honestly the only thing I remember about the grade 1. But in this situation, it doesn't really matter too much because I don't think we're really going to be calling anything down to try and rush against the Alestial, which is kind of interesting because Alestial is like the only card that has anti-grade 1 rush built into the card. But it looks like we're just going to be hitting an OT to pass and not going to be actually hitting and just hitting into that Spiral Cutie Angel, discarding I believe that was a new grade 1 from the Festival Collection and riding into actually the grade 2 from the Kyrie Ride line and then calling down that, I think her name is like Finale or something, hitting into a defensive trigger, swing with the grade 2 Kyrie just to bounce back the Finale. Going to have to hit a trigger in order to pass, but looks like we are not going to be getting it, so we're just going to be bouncing that back to hand. So going into the MLB player's turn, looks like we are discarding a grade 1. Actually, this is kind of interesting because isn't Spiral Cutie the Psycho card for the deck? I mean, I guess it's kind of cringy in MLB because you theoretically want the Wingull Brave in the Soul because resolving the Marin skill here, you check that top 7, add a Blaster, and then if you don't add a Blaster, then you do actually call the Wingull Brave out. But theoretically, we could have discarded that Spiral Cutie, right? And then just Soul Blasted out the Marin. Although, honestly, we can just check top 7, and then if we do hit something, we can just Soul Blast the Wingull Brave, and then if we don't hit something, then we just call out the Wingull Brave and then Soul Blast the Marin. So I guess that might have been a little bit of a misplay. Maybe we're not so familiar with those new cards, although it has been out for a while, but maybe this is first time playing deck. Anyways, looks like we're not opting to use the Blaster Blade skill, which usually does retire. I think it's just Counterblast 1. It might be Counterblast Soul Blast 1. I haven't read Blaster Blade in a while. But you do get to draw a card as compensation for not retiring something. So just swing at the Vanguard, not hitting to a trigger. No defensive trigger, so just swing the second Blaster Blade. And the third Blaster Blade is going to swing and deal that second damage. Once again, no trigger there. So I'm going to be drawing, discarding that grade 3 because it looks like we do already have another copy in hand. And wouldn't you know it, after adding that trigger back to hand, we bind the copy of that girl, the one that lets you be on both Black and White Wings. So okay, so it looks like we're gonna be calling out the Finale and then using the skill of the Alestial's Black Wings. Since we are in both Black and White Wings, we're going to be pitching the other copy of that grade 3 and then call out this gal, which her ability is, I believe it's Soul Blast 3, and then for every 2 of your even grade rear guards or units, I think, you do minus one of your opponent's units minus 5k, and we are going to be obviously targeting that Vanguard, so that's why we called out the Finale before we actually searched it out. We'll be swinging the Vanguard for just 13, going to be checking 1-0 and checking to a critical trigger, so I'm giving the critical to that Vanguard obviously, and the power to that other one. Unfortunately, hitting into a defensive trigger, so this Blaster Blade is going to be at 15 currently. So we are going to be using the White Wings ability to Counterblast 1 and discard to re-ride into the old Alestial. And since we are still in Black and White Wings, both of her abilities are going to activate. She's going to give herself an extra 5k and an extra critical. And the Blaster Blade is going to be getting another minus 5 to its power. So it is once again back to 10. So we essentially just nullified that defensive trigger. I'm going to be swinging the Vanguard 18 at the 10. This is a very interesting interesting guard here, but it looks like we're going to actually opt to take it, even though one critical trigger would be the end of the game here, but we do only have that one drive, so I guess it's not that risky, but it is still kind of a risk. But we do hit into another defensive trigger, drawing into, looks like the OT there, going to 5, and all of these attacks should still be able to hit. The 20 at the Vanguard, which still hits, which is just a 5k to guard. We might, oh, I would have expected us to intercept with the Blaster Blade, and I think this should actually be 2030 because we did actually get that critical trigger and we gave the power to that unit. So we are going to be guarding with the OT there that we drew off of that draw trigger. Kind of interesting. Well, although it looks like we don't really have much, we just have a bunch of 5k shields and that Elementaria, but we are going to be discarding and riding into, I believe, that MLB, obviously. So it looks like we are actually going to be using that Spiral Cutie's ability to Soul Blast 1 and draw a card. And it looks like we drew into a Drilling Angel, which might be interesting. I mean, we could theoretically put the Blaster Dark into the Soul with the Spiral Drilling Angel's ability. The only thing is we actually have one in hand, I believe, so there's really no point to do that play. I don't even know why I mentioned it. Honestly, what I think we just do here is we call down the Blaster Dark, we swing the Blaster Blades at like the rear guards, and then we probably just use the MLB to swing at the Vanguard. We don't really get a retire if we just swing it. If we put in the Blaster Blade, I believe this skill is to retire, and then if you put in the Blaster Dark, you do actually get a drive +1. But for some reason, looks like we're deciding to not call down the Blaster Dark, and we're just going to be swinging with a vanilla MLB, which does not have an extra crit or extra 2k because we don't actually have the Blaster Dark in there. But we are going to be drive checking into a critical trigger, which is giving the 10k to the Blaster Blade, and then a critical to the Vanguard, pushing Alestial to 4. So interesting play. I guess we kind of a misplay in my opinion, swinging the 20 actually. Gosh, I have so many mistakes with the power in this, so many forgetful triggers. But 20 at the rear guard and then 10 at the other rear guard, which is going to be blocked for the 5k. Kind of interesting considering that I believe that grade 2 is an on place, and then the other one that we did let die does actually have an on attack, but I suppose we did have one in hand anyway, so that's probably why we let it go. But we are going to be using its skill to Soul Blast 1, add that card from the bind zone back to your hand, and then bind another card from your hand, which is of course going to be that grade 3 girl, and be letting us be in that black and white wings once again. Just swinging with the new Alestial, obviously under Persona Ride. So swinging for 23, not going to be taking any risks here, just guarding with a perfect guard, discarding that Blaster Dark. I guess we're probably going to put it into Soul with Drilling Angel next turn, I guess, but I think we really should have just done it last turn. We are hitting into a heal and then a front trigger, which is very, very bad for MLB considering we don't actually have that many cards left to guard with. I think we have the Elementario and like 2 15ks, and everything else is going to be just 5ks. And then especially riding into that new Alestial, we're essentially getting another 5k to the entire board because we are minusing the Vanguard for another 5k, and then the Vanguard of course is going to be getting an extra 5k and a critical, so putting us at that nice 28 number against this 8. That is going to probably be a PG because that's a very difficult number to guard even with just one drive check. So it looks like we are swinging with the Finale, using its skill to counterblast 1 and minus the Vanguard another 5k. So this Vanguard is going to be at just 3k against this 40k swing. So if we want to actually be able to guard this, I think our only option is to give up those 2 triggers, and then another 10k on top of that will put us to 43. So we could theoretically just throw down those 2 triggers and intercept with both of the Blaster Blades. But at that point, even if we PG the Vanguard, it's looking like we probably won't have enough to guard the last column. So it looks like we are gonna just opt to take the Vanguard swing, which is probably not the best idea considering it has 2 criticals, but we are going to be hitting into that OT, so it doesn't really matter. Giving the critical to the Vanguard, I believe, and then the extra 100 million to the last rear guard, just adding a card from the drop zone to the hand. And of course that is going to be it. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Not really a great showing for MLB, but if you guys enjoyed, go ahead and do all those YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.